My husband created a fake online persona and said, "It's just for fun." So I leaked his messages to his boss, ruined his reputation, and watched him get fired. If you'd told me 10 years ago that I'd be married to a man who'd live a double life online for fun, and that I'd end up exposing him in the most public way possible, I would have laughed. But as I sit here, staring at the wreckage of our marriage, I'm not laughing. I'm wondering how the man I loved turned into someone I can barely recognize. My name is Claire. I'm 39, a school counselor in Boulder, Colorado. Married to a guy named Jared, or at least I thought I was married to him. We've been together for 9 years, married for 6. Jared and I met at a friend's New Year's party. He was handsome, smart, a little nerdy, and full of the kind of charm that feels genuine. At the time, he was working as a systems analyst in a tech firm, a steady job with decent pay, nothing flashy. We had a quiet life together, mostly normal. Or so I thought. It was only in the past few years that I'd noticed his little quirks coming to light. Jared had this strange hobby of creating online personas for fun. It started small, like him posting under goofy usernames on forums and pretending to be people he wasn't. I'd catch him now and then with some new username like handyman_Harry or Bearded Al, chatting on gardening or car repair forums, even though he couldn't tell a wrench from a plier if his life depended on it. "Why do you do that?" I asked him one night while we were watching TV. He was glued to his phone, chuckling over something he just typed. "Because it's fun, Claire," he said, not looking up. "People believe anything online. It's like social improv, you know?" At the time, I brushed it off. Everybody has hobbies. Maybe mine was cooking and his was, well, pretending to be handyman_Harry online. Weird, but harmless. I didn't see it as a red flag. Not back then, but over time, his hobby started morphing into something else, something darker. A few months ago, he began spending hours online, not just with silly usernames but as a whole new persona, Stefan_Green, the successful, charismatic entrepreneur. The first time I saw it, I laughed, thinking it was some kind of joke. But it didn't feel like a joke for long. "Who's Stefan?" I asked him one night, trying to sound casual. "Oh, just this character I created," he said, grinning like a kid. "He's like me, if I was, you know, richer, cooler, and didn't have a boring job." "Cooler, huh?" I forced a laugh, though the idea made me uneasy. "And how long do you plan on being this Stefan?" "It's just for fun," he said with a shrug. "You wouldn't get it. It's a guy thing." But I did get it, at least, I thought I did. I get that men go through phases where they crave excitement or fantasy, but this wasn't some temporary phase. Stefan became more real to him than Jared himself. I'd catch glimpses of his profile, see the photos he posted, luxury cars, photoshopped images of exotic locations he'd never been to, captions dripping with the kind of slick charm I'd never seen from him in real life. And his followers, hundreds of people eating it up, commenting on his lavish lifestyle, telling him how inspiring he was. Then came the night everything changed. We were sitting on the couch, watching some old detective movie. Jared had his phone in his hand, as usual, barely paying attention. I leaned over to say something, and I noticed a notification flash on his screen, just a glimpse, but enough to make my stomach flip. "Had a great time at dinner last night, Steph. Let's do it again soon," smiley face. It was from someone named Marissa. "Who's Marissa?" I asked before I could stop myself. He looked startled, like a kid caught with his hand in the cookie jar. "Oh, just a friend from work. No big deal." "A friend from work? And she's calling you Stefan?" He froze, scrambling for a response. "Well, yeah, I mean, we have these inside jokes, you know? She gets that it's just a character. We're just joking around." "Really?" Because that looked like a pretty familiar joke for someone from work. "Claire, you're reading too much into it," he snapped, turning back to his phone, effectively ending the conversation. "It's harmless. Can we not do this right now?" I tried to shake it off, but that message gnawed at me, eating away at any trust I'd built with him. A few nights later, when he was fast asleep, snoring with his back to me, I got out of bed and slipped into the bathroom with his phone. It was wrong, I knew that. But I had to know what was really going on. It didn't take long to crack his password, our wedding anniversary. My heart pounded as I opened his social media apps, my fingers trembling. There, in his Stefan_Green profile, was an entire life he'd kept hidden from me. And it wasn't just the fake trips or the Photoshop-enhanced photos, it was the messages. There were dozens of them. Some flirtatious, some downright explicit, from different women, all addressing him as Steph. And right at the top was Marissa. "Stefan, last night was amazing, winking face, can't wait for our next business meeting. Hope you wore that cologne I love today." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My vision blurred as I scrolled, seeing each message reveal a level of intimacy I hadn't felt with him in years. My husband, the man I'd loved, trusted, and spent nearly a decade with, was playing a character so well that he'd managed to live a separate life. And Marissa, the pretty, perfectly polished woman from his office, had clearly been swept away. The next morning, I confronted him. I stood by the kitchen island, waiting for him to come downstairs. He shuffled in, bleary-eyed, reaching for the coffee pot. "Jared," I said, my voice barely more than a whisper. He looked up, startled. "Oh, hey, morning." He gave me a lazy smile, and I felt a fresh wave of anger. He had no idea what was coming. "Who's Stefan?" His face paled, and he tried to brush it off, feigning confusion. What?" "Claire, we've talked about this." "Don't," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "I know everything. I read the messages." He froze, his eyes widening. "Claire, What? You what, Jared? Explain how pretending to be Stefan and having business dinners with Marissa is just fun. Because it looked pretty real to me." "Claire, it's not, you don't get it. Marissa doesn't know it's me. I'm just Stefan to her. It's just a fantasy, okay? She doesn't mean anything to me. So you're just leading her on? Making her think she's with some successful businessman when really she's with a married man who spends his nights trolling people on the internet?" He took a step back, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know why you're blowing this up. I never touched her, Claire. It's just messages. That's all it is." "Messages? Jared, those messages sound like you're having an affair. And even if you're not, the intent is there. You're lying to her, to me. Is that what our marriage has become?" He slumped against the counter, looking defeated but not sorry. "Just caught. I'm sorry, okay? I didn't think it'd get this out of hand. I wanted to be someone else for a while." I stared at him, feeling like I was looking at a stranger. "Then maybe you should go be that someone else." With that, I turned and left, my heart pounding as I drove away. I didn't know where I was going, just that I couldn't be in that house. Not with him. After a few days of silence, he started sending me messages. Apologies, explanations, promises that he'd delete the Stefan account, that he'd never do it again. I barely responded, numb to his words. But then I remembered that Jared had just gotten a new promotion. His boss, Mr. Harland, was a stern, no-nonsense type who valued integrity above all else. And that's when the idea took root. If Jared thought Stefan was such a harmless character, maybe his boss would like to meet Stefan, too. I sent Mr. Harland an email, attaching screenshots of Jared's messages to Marissa and some of his more outlandish posts of Stefan. Within a week, Jared was called into the office, and by the time he got home, he looked shattered. They fired me, Claire," he stammered, eyes wide and panicked. "Mr. Harland, someone showed him everything." I just looked at him, feigning surprise. "Really? I wonder who could have done that." The shock in his eyes slowly turned to realization, then anger, and finally, defeat. It was over. And as I watched him pack his things, all I felt was a strange kind of relief. Let me know if you'd like to continue with additional layers of dialogue and emotions. This part ends here, but I can elaborate on the fallout. After Jared packed his things, I thought I'd feel satisfied. But the thing about betrayal is that it leaves a strange void behind. Even after he was gone, I found myself checking his social media feeds, half expecting to see some post from Stefan about taking time for self-reflection or some pseudo-inspirational nonsense. But his accounts were dead silent. I guess he'd finally realized the extent of the damage, and he knew he was done. For a while, I didn't hear anything from Jared. He stayed at his friend Mark's place, one of his few buddies who hadn't blocked him after the scandal erupted. I found out later that Jared had tried to blame the whole situation on me, saying I'd gone behind his back and hacked his account. But when Mark confronted me about it, I laid out all the screenshots, every dirty message, every lie Jared had woven to keep Stefan alive. Mark was quiet as he scrolled through the screenshots on my phone. Wow. I had no idea he was this deep into it, Claire. I thought it was just a bit of fun, you know?
"Yeah, so did I replied bitterly.
Turns out, he wanted to be someone else so badly that he forgot who he was. The news of Jared's fall spread through his workplace, then trickled into our social circles. Friends who once admired him were suddenly whispering about him. Apparently, word got around that Stefan had been posing as a wealthy investor, and some of Jared's co-workers had even been following the account, impressed by this mysterious, successful man they thought was part of their world. When the truth came out, it was humiliating on a level that even I hadn't anticipated. But it wasn't enough. I still felt restless, so I took things a step further. I wasn't done yet. You see, Marissa, the woman he'd been dating as Stefan, still had no idea about the real Jared. In fact, when I reached out to her, she was still waiting for Stefan to contact her. That hurt to hear, but it also gave me an idea. I invited her for coffee, under the pretense that I was Jared's friend, someone who knew Stefan and wanted to help her get clarity. When we met, she was even more stunning in person. Tall, blonde, and with a kind of quiet confidence that I admired instantly. I almost felt bad for her, almost. She greeted me with a puzzled smile. "Claire, right? So you know Stefan?" Actually, I said, feeling a surge of satisfaction, I know Jared. The color drained from her face. I'm sorry, who? Jared. My husband. Or, I guess, soon-to-be ex-husband. She looked down, blinking rapidly as the realization dawned on her. Wait, are you saying Jared and Stefan are the same person? I nodded. The luxury trips, the business dinners, the cologne you mentioned, all of it was fake. He's not an investor, Marissa. He's an IT guy who made up a life to feel important. Marissa sat back, stunned, before shaking her head with a sad smile. I feel so stupid. You're not stupid. He's very convincing. But I thought you deserved to know. For a few moments, we sat in silence. I could see the hurt in her eyes, the betrayal settling in. She asked a few more questions, and I answered them all honestly. I told her everything, sparing no detail. By the time I'd finished, she looked like she was ready to kill him herself. I guess I should have seen the signs, she murmured, taking a shaky breath. But, thank you. Thank you for telling me. That was when I realized I wasn't just doing this for revenge, I was doing it to break the illusion that Jared had so carefully constructed. And it felt damn good. A few weeks passed, and Jared called me, probably hoping I'd softened up. He sounded desperate, a shell of the confident man I'd once known. Claire, he said, his voice hoarse, can we talk? Just, one last time. Please. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him at a park near our old neighborhood. When I arrived, he was sitting on a bench, looking worn, his once proud posture slouched, his face gaunt. Claire, he started, trying to meet my eyes. I'm sorry. I know I hurt you. I know I messed up. But losing my job, my reputation, my friends, it's all been too much. I need your help. I stared at him, unmoved. My help? The way you helped me by lying to me for years? His face fell, and he looked down, twisting his hands. I wanted to be someone better than I was. Stefan was everything I couldn't be, and Marissa, she believed in that version of me. That's because you never gave her a choice, I said coldly. You lied to her, to everyone, and for what? A fantasy? He swallowed hard, trying to steady himself. Please, Claire. I've lost everything. I'm begging you, can't we just try to move past this? Can't we at least stay friends? I almost laughed at the audacity. Friends? Jared, we're not friends. Friends don't do what you did. He looked devastated, but I felt nothing. I stood up, feeling lighter than I had in months. Goodbye, Jared, I said, walking away without looking back. I didn't owe him forgiveness. I didn't owe him closure. He'd made his bed, and now he could lie in it, alone. In the end, I left with my head held high, knowing I'd finally put the whole mess behind me. And the best part? Word had gotten around our social circles, his company, even his family about his double life. Stefan was no more, and the only life he had left was the one he'd tried so hard to escape. I went home, poured myself a glass of wine, and raised it to the empty seat across from me. Here's to a fresh start, I thought, finally at peace.